All right, guys, this is going to be the first of several videos going over source control. We have a couple things that we have to cover. We have to learn how to do source control on our local computers. We have to learn how to do source control in the cloud. And all of this is so that we can maintain the most up-to-date copy of the stuff that we're working on. There are a couple ways to do it if we weren't doing source control. If you were writing up, say, a paper or a resume, which I've done this before, that you have the title of your stuff and you always make sure that you're doing save as, so you don't save over your previous version in case you needed to go back to it or make changes. So you might tag it with a date. Maybe you might put a number for your own little version control of that. You may end up saving, your original under something else so that you could change, make copies, and then do changes to it. So source control kind of does that for us all in one. It makes it so that we can keep the most up-to-date stuff. We can track when we have made changes, so we can track changes in time. We can find out what we did to those different versions so that we can see everything that we have done. And then if we end up having like an issue, we can undo it easy enough without having to start our project over, especially if it's the next day. If you realize the day before that you made a big error in your code and you can't go back to your previous version because it's now the next day, this would allow you to be able to go back. You could undo large changes. You could see the stuff that you did. You could test out different things and use that, which this is just going to be huge for. Okay, so there are multiple terms that we're going to start using when I'm talking about source control. This document that I'm going to attach in your material in your classwork section, you can use to reference. There are some things that we're not going to be doing a lot of. We're not going to be creating a lot of branches and that type of stuff, but you are going to get a lot of practice creating repositories. So if I was using some of these visuals as an example before we do it, if I was creating code and the first one, I have just a little bit of code, and then I make a change and I add some more code, and then I add some more code. All of these could be my different version controls, my different versions, okay? And tracking that change, knowing what the difference was between each one, what I did, what I added, what I deleted, would allow me, if I realize it was a bad idea, that I can go back. Okay, so it allows us to make changes to our existing code and to track all those changes. It's really, really cool. Okay, so let's jump into it. So if we were doing it on a local computer, you guys have GitKraken on your local computer. Okay, before you were creating, and there's a couple different ways to do it. I'm going to do one of each way. So you can see, if you need a reference back, how to implement source control if you did it one of these ways. But how we originally were doing it, if we were creating a project, we'd go to File, New, and we'd create a project. Okay, I'm going to have us do it one step out. So GitKraken, you would want to open up your GitKraken and you would want to create an account if you don't already have one. And basically what we would do is we're going to say that we want to, I'm going to click on the folder. We want init. We want to initialize a repository so we can track those changes. So even before I created the project, I'm going to go to init. So I click on this. I have a lot of different options. For now, we're just going to do local. Okay. So I have no folders created, no nothing. I'm having this do it for me. So say I want to create a folder and I'm going to call it test. And that's going to hold a project folder that I'm going to use to be able to create stuff and test things that I'm learning before I try to implement it into a project. So I'm going to call it test, and you guys would want to make sure that you are browsing and putting it in your Z drive under CP1, okay, which I don't have. So I'm putting it on my MacBook, I'm putting it under projects and doing it from there. So this full path, it will create a folder with that name, that test name, whatever name we put here. It's going to create that using this folder structure. So you need to make sure that you're on your Z for Z drive under your CP1, and then you will create this folder. Okay. After that, we can go ahead and click create repository. Okay. So now if I went into my Finder and I went into it and looked at that folder, the only thing that I really should have in here is a README file. And the README file doesn't really have anything in there, but it is a file that I could write all the changes and stuff that I've made. Okay. GitKraken is kind of a visual way for us to see when we're making changes. So now that I created that folder doing it this way, I could go ahead and I could go to my IntelliJ and I could say, I want to create a new project. File, new project. Okay. I'm doing Java. I hit next. I could go ahead and use the command line app template. And I'm going to go and search the project location, which is going to be that folder that I just created. Okay. So after I have that folder, I make sure that my base package is right. Or clicking heights. And I go ahead and click finish. If it gives you this, yes, you want to overwrite. And I'm going to open it up in this window. All right, so then if I'm looking at my project structure now, I should have that README file that I originally had. Plus now I have, inside here, I have this main folder. Okay. Now all this does, so I just created a normal project, but because I did that GitKraken piece beforehand, if I go back to it, now I see this plus right next to this 8. And over here, it's telling me, so this is my work in progress, and it's telling me that I have 7 files right here, a total of 8 files that are different, that are new, that I have never put into source control. So what I want to do, like for example, this main file, I'm not tracking that I'm making changes on it. But if I do want to track that I'm making changes on it, I want to add it. So for an initial IntelliJ, tracking the IntelliJ changes, I'm going to go ahead and stage all changes. Here, I can choose if I wanted to on-stage anything individually. If I realize that I selected too many. And down here on a commit message, you need to always give yourself a meaningful message of what you did. That way, it's easy for you to go back and look through the changes that you made if you made a mistake. So I created IntelliJ project. Okay, that's meaningful. You only have like 72 characters, so you want to make it meaningful and to the point. So I'm going to go ahead and commit those changes. Okay, now the cool thing about this is, so here right now I just created the project, but if I wanted to add some code, so let's go to system.out.println and I go hello. I'm going to copy that. I do hello world. All right. So I could go here and I could go file, save, all, but I won't be able to go back if it was the next day. But I could go back to my GitKraken, open it up, and now I see an orange little button. This lets me know that things have been changed. And right here, it's telling me 2 files changed in working directory. I could look at the changes. Okay, I could click on each of these. This one, it changed the workspace. Do I really care about that? No, that doesn't hold my code. You guys have seen that. It's pretty much not useless, not useful for me. So I could say that I could discard that hunk for any of the changes. and I didn't really care about that file. But here, look, we got, from the previous one, we had no spaces, and we didn't have the system.out.print lines. It is tracking that there are 3 lines that I added, and 2 of those lines have hello and have world in my main method. Okay, so that's significant. I want to track those changes. So I'm going to go ahead and I can say stage that hunk if I just want part of it. If I wanted to just stage those 2 lines, I could stage that. I could choose to just stage the whole file itself. Okay, and I could say added hello world. Okay, I commit that change, and now it is tracking that I did that. If I wanted to go into any one of these, I could go ahead and look. So any one of these projects, I could see what happened. Here, this was added on the created IntelliJ project. This is that point in time. I added 8 files. On this one, I modified 1 file. So I could go ahead and I could go into that file and see, oh, okay, I added those 3 lines. All right. Now, if I wanted to go back, let's say that I wanted to make changes, or I wanted it not to say hello world, but hello earth. Okay. Just doing that, once I go back to my GitKraken, it's now showing that I modified 2 files. This one, again, that's workspace. I don't really need that, so I'm going to ignore it. But this one, the main, let's see what I did. I deleted this world and I added the earth. And this line right here that has the minus is showing that it happened on line 9. And on line 9, I also added earth. So I do want that. So I'm going to go ahead and stage that. Stage that change. This, I don't really need that piece. So now that I have that, I could write another meaningful message, changed world to earth.